Welcome to another episode of Antimatter Garage. If you've been watching this channel, you'll know that after I did the 2ZZ swap into my MR2 Spyder, I had a bit of a punch list of things that I wanted to get fixed. So I made a list, it's right down here, and I'm going to now go and, oh, it's up there, right, so very funny. So the list is right up, it's over. You done now? Anyway, the punch list is right somewhere on the screen, and I'm going to check them off one at a time. Here we go.
All right, so currently that's the tachometer shows that's 1500 RPM, and what I found is as it warms up, it actually goes up to like 1800 RPM, and that seems to be where it sits. So that's a little too high, I think. It should start maybe around here and then come down as it warms up. So I'm going to just take this. It's carb cleaner, and you need to get the right kind that's good for fuel injection systems. To be honest, I don't remember if this is right or not, but it's kind of what I have on the shelf, so it must be, since that's what I did with it last time. And what I do is I spray just a little bit on areas where I think I might have a leak. So all these little vacuum lines I just spray around, and then also back on the throttle body where like between the throttle body and the intake manifold, the gasket there, that sort of thing. See if it's pulling in any air. So I didn't hear any change. So it's not pulling in the extra fuel and raising up. So far so good. I'm confident I've sprayed all of the areas that would make a difference. So I'm pretty sure it's IAC, and I'll show you that now. IAC stands for idle air control, as you know. And if you don't know where it is or what it does, it's on the throttle body, and what it does is it allows air to go around the throttle body and come in when the throttle plate is closed and would otherwise shut the engine down. So the reason you need control for that, as opposed to just a little hole, is because when the car is at first started and it's cold, right? And so it's going to change a little bit because you want to run a little bit rich when you first start. And so it needs to control that based on the conditions. So there's a little unit down here that's got a little actuator in it that kind of opens and closes. And also there are two coolant lines that come in. So, well, just actually a coolant line in and a coolant line out. It just runs through it. It senses the temperature and says, hey, if it's hot, do this. If it's cold, do that. That's basically what that's for. And here's the electronic control to give that power and to do what it needs to do. To get that off, what you do is you need to come in with screws underneath. There are 3 screws, and as it turns out, those screws are very, very difficult to take off. In fact, on the 2ZZ, I made sure I switched those out to hex bolts. And in the process of doing that, I actually broke the screwdriver getting the screw out. So they're ridiculously hard, and of course when it's installed in the engine it's very hard to get to. So I'm just going to show you here on my old engine, because I still have it around, how you get that off. Now I have replaced this recently, and that's actually why I'm doing this, because I did a little research on Spyder Chat and found out that indeed the 1ZZ IAC will fit on the 2ZZ. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out now and stick it into the new engine and see if that solves my problem, and see if they're actually right as to whether or not that'll fit. And that makes me really glad that I changed those screws out for hex nuts, because otherwise I know that it would have been impossible to get off had I not done that. Now that it's there, it may be merely difficult. All right, so here it is. Hopefully the camera will focus on that. It's a pretty simple device. You can see that here, make sure I'm on, yep, the water will come in and then flow back out, or maybe the other way, I don't know, I don't care. And that gives it its temperature. And then in here, there's a little cylinder that rotates this way and opens this little hole. You can see it down there, and lets in more or less air. And that's controlled by this little motor here and the electrical connection on the back. That's basically it. Now, a lot of people are saying, oh, you know, you can clean these out, and if you do it the right way, you know, you won't mess things up. But as it turns out, what happened on mine, and I can actually already see it starting to happen here. I'm going to get really close, and I hope that focuses, because on the bottom, look on the bottom down here, you can see it's actually kind of corroding a little bit. because I tried on my old 1ZZ, the old IAC I had, I tried cleaning that out. It didn't work at all. And when I pulled it off and looked at it, it turned out that it was all corroded. It was not salvageable. So, all right, I'm under the transmission right now, looking up at the throttle body, and you can see just behind the shift cable there, deep inside, is the IAC, and you can see that I put 3 hex bolts on there. So now if I can just figure out the size, I think I can reach it from here, but the 2 cooling lines are obviously going to have to come off first or else it won't come out, and I have to undo this electrical connector up here. But I'm not sure, I don't recall how much coolant comes out of these things when you undo them, so it could come down on my face. I'm going to have to be a little bit careful. If you're wondering when you take this off if a lot of fluid comes out, then yes it does. And it goes all over your face, it goes all over the side of the engine, like the transmission, and rolls down the transmission and comes off somewhere else. It goes pretty much everywhere except in the pan that I put underneath there to catch it. That has very little in it. Anyway, here's the old, here's the new. And you can see, by looking at this, I find it very difficult to believe that a little carb cleaner is ever going to get that out. I mean, this is corrosion like you wouldn't believe. It's not, it may be cleanable, but I think just spraying some in there and letting, turning it and stuff, I just don't see that actually happening. So, also you can see 2ZZ, 1ZZ. I mean, they're basically identical. This one says 59A1 and this one says 59B1. I don't know what that means, but I'm putting this one in. So I wanted you to be able to see up in there, it's also corroded inside the throttle body. So I'm gonna try and get a screwdriver up there and see how much of that stuff I can, clear out before I put the other one back on. You can also see the gasket there it's probably not the greatest, and I should probably change that. But I don't have one, and it wasn't leaking, so I'm just gonna give it a try. I'm sure this is a bad idea. All right, well that was a lot of fun. I got fluid everywhere, all over me, everything. But it's finally in, and of course I had to lose the screw too. I lost it inside the deep well socket. I'm looking all around, I can't find it anywhere. I can see the socket, but where's my bolt? Anyway, all right, so it's done. Now it's time for the truth. Start it up, see if it idles okay, and if it does, then I'm gonna have to also check and see if it leaks, because I did reuse the gasket, and those hoses that went on it, I just reused the clamps. They don't feel super tight. Let's give it a try though and see what happens. I'll spare you the gory results of that. What happened is it didn't seem to actually work. And that's at least not at that time, but over the next couple of days, the idle seemed to normalize, and it idles normally now. So if you do this job and it doesn't seem to work, make sure that you either retrain the idle, and there are videos online about how to do that. It's really simple. I think you just turn the key to the on position, then back, and then start it, and let it idle for a few minutes or something like that. It's supposed to retrain the brain, also of the car. But in any case, mine worked over a couple days. It came down, so that was the idle air control that was the problem. I've only driven the Spyder a little bit, but on a few occasions that I have driven it, I've noticed that the temperature will go very high, fortunately not into the red, and then it comes back down again. And I did notice that there was a little bit of fluctuation in the tachometer when I would come to a stop. If I stayed still, it wasn't a problem, but as I was slowing down, I could see it kind of bouncing around, and these are indications that I have air in the coolant system. And I couldn't understand that because I've done the cooling several times now, and I've never had a problem with it doing it the way I showed on previous videos. And it suddenly occurred to me that, oh, that's right, I had the idling problem and changed the idle air control valve, and when I did, obviously I lost a bunch of coolant. I put it all back together, and I think I just filled it up. I didn't actually go through the process again, so I probably have some trapped air in there. So, as usual, solving one problem has caused another problem. So here's what happens to the list, wherever the list is. I'll just let it do its thing. Step one is to take the entire frunk apart so that I can access the radiator. And if you haven't seen that, just go look at some of my previous videos when I swapped the engine. There's plenty on there about that. But here's something I don't understand. Let me take you with me. I know there's a way to do this.
Okay, right down there, engine's kind of hot, so I gotta be careful. Right down there, at the tip of my finger, I hope you can see it, yeah. I didn't know what that was, but I saw somewhere in the book on the car, the online book on the car, that was like a coolant purge valve or something like that. It had a different word, but I thought, oh, I saw on some videos, Eric the car guy, one, who's in Ratches and Wrenches, another, where they were getting air out of the system and how they did it, and they loosened that purge valve and they did what they did until fluid came out. But what I don't understand about it is that it's really low on the engine. You can see it's down there, and I've got coolant lines way up here, so it's not the highest point like I would have expected it. So now I'm not really certain what that is or how to use it. So leave it in the comments. What I intend to do is essentially fill the fluid the same way I did in the past, with the fluid coming out at the front, and if that doesn't do it, then I'll do their method where I run the engine for a bit and, you know, go through the process. You can go look at their videos online for that. Here's what happened. I was getting fluid up in here, but the air stopped flowing out of here. I couldn't hear it anymore, but this tube didn't have any fluid in it, and so I added some fluid at the back. In fact, and I jacked up the car a little bit to get a lean this direction, and it just wasn't working. And so I added some more fluid at the back, and it actually started to overflow a little bit, which was kind of annoying. So I came up here, and you can see that this is red right here, so there's definitely fluid up to this point. And I just came and I just barely touched the drain cock a little bit, just turned it a little bit, and all of a sudden fluid started flowing up, and I could see air bubbles coming out. And I kept it that way. I was hoping it wouldn't overflow, which I guess it can't, it's too high. But anyway, I waited until the bubbles came out before I turned the cock, and that one over there, turn the cock's what she said. Anyway, so you can see that there's fluid now in both these tubes, so theoretically the system is completely full. So on to the next problem. It's just a gearshift knob. It doesn't need a lot of attention. This is what it looks like. Basically, I fixed it by putting a whole bunch of JB Weld epoxy in there to glue everything back together again, and it seems to be working okay. If it should fail in the future, then I'll just get another knob or something. So, on to problem number 3. I brought the car to an alignment shop and hoped that that would solve my handling problem, and it was pretty apparent almost right away that it didn't. So I assumed it would be something kind of difficult to find, because when I was at the shop, I told them specifically, I just got done changing the engine and I feel like I must have missed a bolt. Please look for loose bolts. I mean, I specifically told them that. And the guy, they did the alignment, the guy drove it in the parking lot. Oh, it's great, you know, so I took the car home, and it was clear that it's still, you know, when in a straight line it feels like normal-ish, but in a hard corner or just odd times it just feels squirrely, and it still felt the same. So I brought it home and I parked it for, I don't know, a couple of weeks or something, and until I could get around to it. And when I did, I decided, because I thought this could be difficult, I thought I might just mount a camera under there and see if I could see something. I didn't expect to see anything, but I did. Here it is. By the way, don't you just love watching suspension go up and down? It's kind of like watching a fire or waves coming on the beach. I don't know, I could just watch it for hours. I hope you're like me and weird. That is more than 2 minutes worth of watching my suspension go up and down. As I said, I can watch it forever, but please put it in the description if that was too much or not enough. I got to get a feeling for this for the future. But in any case, I hope you saw the action that I was talking about, and if you didn't, you will see it in this next clip.
Why do you think I might have had a suspension problem? Maybe it has something to do with that. And I think it's on both sides. So that actually seems loose. So I must have not tightened something. I will find it and tighten it. Let me check the other side. Oh yeah. I'm thinking I missed the same thing on both sides, whatever it is. So I don't know how with all that documentation I did, but I'll take a look now and see what it is. It's this bottom bolt right here. It's not even finger tight. I can turn that by hand. And the only thing I don't understand, I'll have to go ahead and tighten it and we'll see what happens, but I'm not sure I understand why tightening that would stop this motion. But all right, well, that was a simple fix. I'm glad I can cross that one off the list, but I'm not real happy with that shop. I am going to go back there again because it was $100 to get the rear end aligned, and I don't want to have to pay that again. So I'm going to see if I can convince them that they messed up and they need to fix it. So right now I'm going to go take it for a test drive and see if it handles better. I assume it will. Regarding the ticking sound, which I'm pretty sure was this VSV. I couldn't remember if it was this one or this one, but I'm pretty sure it was that one. There are a lot of hints and a lot of things I don't understand. One of the things I don't understand is this has a hint here. I'll go ahead and roll it so you can see. It actually says pulse width modulated vacuum switching valve. So if this valve were designed to be just on or off, it would explain why a train of pulses would cause it to click a lot. And that means, maybe it's the wrong one. Now, it has the wrong resistance value. It's about 29.4, and it should be between 37 and 44. This one does. This came with the 2ZZ engine. It does actually have a higher resistance. And this is the one that goes on there, and since what's controlling it is the ECU for 2ZZ, I'm kind of thinking this should be it. What I don't understand is all the pictures I've seen show larger tubing on it like this, but these are clearly teeny tiny ones, so that isn't going to actually work. So what I've decided to do though, since the pulse width modulated that I just read up here has to do with the 1ZZ engine, these are 1ZZ VSVs, they ought to be able to handle it. They should click though if it's getting a pulse train. So anyway, I thought maybe none of that gives you anything, does it? It confuses me as much as I'm probably confusing you. So what I've decided to do, well, if you look here, it actually says from canister that goes through this thing into behind the throttle body, which is where that goes. This one says too, so if it's coming from the canister and it has this little guy in line, I noticed that it was in backwards because air coming that direction from there was being stopped. And I have a feeling it shouldn't be, otherwise it wouldn't ever be able to flow that way, right? So the first step I'm going to do to stop this clicking noise and try and get things running right is to just reverse this, which I've already done. So let's see if that works. That did not solve the problem, but I think you can hear it. Alright, so I disconnected it. Now, of course, you hear nothing. This thing's just cycling. So I think maybe if I use the 2ZZ VSV, it won't do that. But again, the holes are way smaller than that, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. So this is classic me. I was cutting one of the rubber tubes with a razor, with a carpet knife, and I knew I was in danger of cutting myself, so I was super careful, and I completely and utterly cut that perfectly fine. I was super careful and nothing happened. Yay. And as I'm pulling the knife out, it bangs on the side of the car and slices me anyway.
All right, believe it or not, that is actually the end of the list. Even though there are 4 or 5 more items on the list, they're all going to be handled in separate videos. The transmission, the third gear synchro was handled by Monkey Wrench Racing, and so I made a video on how to take the transmission out of and put it back into an MR2 Spyder, and that'll go up soon, and then you can see how I fix that. The cruise control is an entirely separate video, so you'll see how I managed to fix that, and so forth. So I did actually manage, I'll put the video up, a little piece of it up while I'm talking right now, to have yet another problem creep up while I was trying to cross these things off the list. And that was I took the center console out and the Windows switch sort of fell apart when I tried to pull the connector out. As you know, a lot of these connectors are really hard to get out. You press the clip and then you pull and pull and pull, and you feel like you're putting 1,000 pounds on it and didn't want to come out. And it basically broke the switch apart, which I think was already falling apart actually. So I put it back together, and this time I glued it with some epoxy, so hopefully I fixed that permanently. Other than that, stay tuned to the channel for more hopefully good stuff. I have some really, I think, unique stuff coming up on the channel, not in the not too distant future. In the meantime, stay coronavirus free, and I hope you don't go crazy in isolation, and thanks for watching. Oh, and there is one more thing. My cousin made a little sort of electronic-y kind of song, and she asked me if I could do a video to go with it. And I haven't mentioned on this channel, but I actually have a sister channel called Antimatter Skunkworks. And at Antimatter Skunkworks, I put pretty much everything that's not car-related. I have a lot of hobbies, and I build a lot of stuff. And I made a little stop-motion animation video for her, so I'd appreciate if you go take a look at that and maybe go to her site and give her a little support. Her songs are like really different. To be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of that song, but I think the video helped a lot. So go take a look at it. I'll put a link in the description. Again, thank you for watching.